This video, I just want to share my opinion on why I feel that children shouldn't train in martial arts too much. I think that, all children could benefit from training in the martial arts. It enhances your physical development, your combative development, your spiritual development, your overall development as a human being. But my reasons on why I feel that children shouldn't train too much is because I don't think anything should be forced. I think that I don't think anything should be forced, but you shouldn't force a child to do something that's unreasonable, an amount of training. So meaning, there's laws against child labor. Like, you can't make a child work. It's against the law. You get locked up. It's the same thing, like, beyond a reasonable amount of training, it's not good. Basically what it ends up doing is it leads to boredom, and it leads to resentment, where when you make somebody do something too much, they don't want to do it anymore. So then what ends up happening is you end up having to force them to do something that they don't want to do, and that's like the worst thing that you want to do as a parent. So if my child is being completely lazy and he doesn't want to train at all, then yes, I will force him to do a certain amount, but a reasonable amount of training, not too much. So meaning, if a child doesn't want to go to school, and then you just be like, and then you just give in and you spoil him, you can't do that, because even by law, you're required to have your child go to school. You'll get locked up. So you can't just not let your child, you can't just let your child not go to school. But if if the child is going to school, and then you force the child to go to summer school, and then you force the child to do, to study 3 hours when he gets back from home, and that's not necessary. Like, that's you going beyond what the schools required, and you're just basically pushing your child. And my main reason for not having children train too much is just basically the prevention of boredom. When I train my children in the martial arts, I expect them to train for their entire life, and there's really no professional goal to strive towards. It's not like basketball or football, where you're playing basketball because you want to get to the NBA. There's no national league in martial arts. They're not boxers trying to become professional boxers. They're not cage fighters trying to become professional cage fighters. They're not even martial artists that are trying to become movie stars. There's basically no end goal. It's just a lifestyle. So it's like they have their whole life to train. Basically, there's no rush. It's like my philosophy in the training the martial arts is almost like moving like that turtle, opposed to the rabbit. The rabbit's going so fast that he gets just tired out, and then he just gets exhausted and he just dies. But the turtle just keeps moving slow, but he's still moving, and he's moving for 100 years, and the next thing you know, he moved a very long distance because he just kept at it with that consistency and discipline. So meaning, like, I have my children train like 3 times a week, an hour each time. Occasionally I might have them train more, but it's not like, that's not like something that's often. I want them to build a natural drive and dedication to train more. So if they really, really want to train more than 3 times, then they can. But if it doesn't come natural to do more than that, then I'll just leave it at that. But I see it time and time again. I meet people all the time. They're out of shape, they're obese, or they're not fit anymore, they don't work out anymore, they just lost the drive to exercise or anything. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, I used to practice martial arts when I was 5 years old. I had a purple belt, brown belt, black belt, whatever. I did it for like 5 years, 10 years, but then I stopped. There's no point. You know, what's the point of practicing martial arts from the age of 5 until 15, and then all of a sudden you give it up for the rest of your life? It doesn't make sense. You know, it's like a waste. You know, and then they don't want to get back to it because you forced them to do something that they didn't want to do. And now they hate it. You know, so what I'm about is just basically train the kids, you know, just the right amount, so then they won't get bored. They're gonna, not only will they not get bored, but they're gonna almost beg for it. They're gonna ask for it. They're gonna be excited about it because they don't do it that often. And that goes with anything in life. If you eat too much food, then you know you get sick of food. You know, like if you work out too much, you know, then that's not good for your body. You know what I mean? Like if you have too much sex, then, you know what I'm saying, like you don't feel anything anymore. It's not a big deal anymore. It's not like exciting anymore. It's like everything, you know, like if you go to Six Flags Great America every single day, then you're not gonna want to go anymore. You know what I mean? Like you drive too much, then you don't like driving anymore. It's like anything you do too much, you're gonna lose that motivation, that passion. So a part of the martial arts is being able to enjoy a lot of different things in life, not just like one thing. Like you don't just train how to spar, you know, and that's all you do. You know, we do a lot of fitness training, we do a lot of stretching, we do a lot of combat training, we do a lot of reading, we do a lot of writing. You know, you better yourself in all areas in life, and when you train and you develop yourself in all areas of life, you're just overall, you're just better developed. You know, and that's pretty much how I see it. You know, there's no rush, but with sports there's a rush. You know, you got to get as good as you possibly can because you need to make that high school team, and then you need to make that college team. There's no luxury to wait when it comes to sports, because you're trying to become a professional athlete and everybody else is training like crazy, taking steroids or cheating or doing whatever to get that extra edge. And if you don't do it, then you're not going to make it. That's what sports brings upon you. It brings upon like this unhealthy competitive mentality that takes away the joy in what you do. And then you see people crying because they lost a basketball game, you know, or even wanting to commit suicide because they didn't win first place. I mean, that's what sports brings to you, but martial arts is not that. Martial arts is just, you have your whole life to train. There's no rush. So just enjoy the training, and if you don't enjoy it, then cut back on the training. Do it less. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. But you always need to have a base amount of training. You cannot just do nothing, because then no one is to blame but you. It's because you're being lazy, and nobody should be lazy. You know, we should all do something. You know, so for example, if you're working 40 hours a week is reasonable. That's a full-time job. But nobody told you that you had to work 120 hours a week. You did those 80 extra hours because you decided to. Now, if you're feeling like you're overworked, then you better cut down from the 120 to go back to 80. And if 80 feels like overworked, then you better cut back down to 40. But 40 should be the base amount. You know, so if you train 3 times a week, then make sure you train 3 times a week. But if you start training twice a week, once a week, then no one is to blame but you. You can't go backwards, you gotta go forward. So my kids are not gonna train anything less than 3 times a week. If they do try to train less than 3 times a week, then comes the force, where it's necessary for me to put my foot down and be like, no, you know, there's no option here. You need to train 3 times a week, because that is the minimum. And then you want to build up to 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, to the point where you're training every single day and it's just a part of your life, and there's no such thing as boredom, because it's just you. It's just who you are. It's breathing, it's walking, it's running, it's brushing your teeth, it's taking a shower, it's just eating, sleeping. It's just who you are. And when you get to that point, it becomes effortless effort. It becomes the Wu Wai in Chinese, they call it. It's just something where you just keep training, you keep developing, you keep progressing without even having to try. You know, and that's my philosophy and outlook on how training in the martial arts should be.